The behaviour isn't the problem, the shame is. I want to start with something that might sound a little strange. I don't think most people struggle because they check their phone too much. I don't think they struggle because they scroll, overeat, procrastinate, smoke, text their ex, seek reassurance, or stay in situations that they know aren't right. I think most people struggle because of what happens afterwards: the shame, the judgment, the questioning. What's wrong with me? Why am I still doing this? I thought I'd healed this. I should be past this by now. Because shame doesn't create change, it creates resistance, and resistance keeps us stuck. Most behaviours that we label as unhealthy aren't random, they're intelligent. They're attempts by our mind and our body to solve a problem. The issue is that most of us never stop long enough to ask what the problem behaviour is actually trying to solve. We go straight into trying to stop it, fight it, or get rid of it. And when we do that, we often make it stronger. A few weeks ago, I noticed I was constantly checking my phone. Every couple of minutes, I'd pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down, and pick it up again. Nothing had changed. There were no new messages, no emergency, no real reason. Yet part of me kept reaching for it. Years ago, I'd have immediately made that mean something. Maybe I'm addicted. Maybe I'm not present enough. Maybe I'm dependent on technology. Maybe I'm not as healed as I thought. Maybe there's something wrong with me. But these days, I've learned to get curious before I get critical. So instead of judging the behaviour, I simply noticed it. There's a part of me that really wants to check my phone. That's it. No fixing, no analysing, no making it mean anything. Just awareness. And something really interesting happened the moment I stopped shaming myself. I could actually work with what was happening. I could acknowledge that part. I could listen to it. I could say, I know you want to check your phone. We're going to wait 15 minutes and then, if you'd still like to, you can. What surprised me wasn't that I managed to wait. What surprised me was how quickly my body relaxed. Within a few minutes, I felt calmer, more present, more connected to where I actually was. The urge didn't disappear because I defeated it. The urge softened because I stopped fighting myself. I think this points to something really important about the nervous system. Most of us have been taught to treat urges as enemies, that they're bad, that they're wrong. But what if they're actually messages, not instructions? Messages, that's very different. Because when your nervous system creates an urge, it isn't necessarily telling you what to do. It's telling you what it wants. My nervous system wanted relief. It wanted stimulation. It wanted certainty. It wanted a change in state. The phone was simply the vehicle. And the same thing happens everywhere in life. The phone isn't really the point. It's just today's version. Humans have always searched for relief, sometimes through phones, sometimes through food, alcohol, work, relationships, shopping, or social media. The object changes, but the mechanism stays the same. It's all about relief. And there's some science behind this. Most people think that dopamine is the pleasure chemical, but actually it's more associated with anticipation, seeking, and motivation. Research suggests that dopamine often spikes before the reward arrives, not after, which means that the checking can become more addictive than the message itself. When I learned that, it blew my mind. The scrolling can become more addictive than the actual content. The possibility becomes more compelling than the reality. And this is why you can pick up your phone, or whatever your example is, you can pick up your phone 20 times and still not feel satisfied. And it's because you weren't looking for information, you were looking for a state change. And underneath almost every behaviour is the same thing: regulation. Our nervous systems are constantly trying to move towards safety. And the challenge that we have is that sometimes it confuses familiarity with safety. And that sentence changed my life when I truly understood it. Sometimes the nervous system chooses familiarity over what we actually want. And that's why people go back to exes who weren't good for them. Who's been there? Why they stay in jobs they hate, why they keep repeating habits that they promise themselves they'll stop. Not because they're weak. That narrative I'm done with. It's not because they're weak. It's not because they're broken. It's not because they lack willpower. It's because the familiar feels so predictable. And that's why we can go back to something that doesn't serve us, even when it hurts. This is why after my breakup, my most recent one, there was so many moments where I really wanted to message him. At the time, my mind had all these convincing arguments. One little message won't hurt. You could just say hello. You could just see how he is. But if I'm really honest, none of those were the real reason. I wasn't looking for connection. We'd already decided that we were better off apart. And so I wasn't looking for connection. I was looking for relief. Relief from loneliness, relief from uncertainty, relief from grief, relief from missing someone. That's where I think so many of us get stuck, because we judge ourselves for wanting relief. But why? Of course you want relief. You're human. Of course part of you wants comfort. Of course part of you wants certainty. Of course part of you wants to stop hurting. The desire itself isn't the problem. The question is whether the thing that you're reaching for can actually give you the relief that you're seeking. A text message might give relief for 10 minutes. Scrolling might give relief for 10 minutes. A cigarette might give relief for 10 minutes. But what happens after that? Usually we're right back where we started, except now you've also weakened trust in yourself. And I think that's the hidden cost people rarely talk about. Every time we abandon ourselves for temporary relief, when our mind is telling us one thing and our body's saying this thing and we're interpreting it as that, we strengthen the belief that we cannot handle discomfort. Every time we stay with ourselves through discomfort, we strengthen the belief that we can. And this doesn't mean forcing yourself to suffer. It doesn't mean white knuckling your way through life. We don't want that. It means just learning to pause, to notice, to become conscious, to create a little bit of space between urge and action. Because in that space, something extraordinary happens. Choice appears, and choice is where freedom lives. Not in never having the urges, not in becoming perfectly regulated, not in becoming someone who never wants reassurance or comfort. Freedom is being able to feel the urge without automatically obeying it. Freedom is being able to say, I know part of me really wants this, and I'm still going to choose something different. And that's self-trust, not perfection, it's self-trust. And if there's one thing I've learned over the last couple of years, it's this. The goal isn't to become someone who never wants to send the message. The goal is to become someone who wants to send it and can still stay. Someone who can feel lonely and stay. Someone who can feel grief and stay. Someone who can tolerate uncertainty and stay. Because every time you stay with yourself, you're sending yourself a message, not with words, with actions. You're saying, I won't abandon you. Eventually, your nervous system starts to believe you, not because you told it to, because you proved it again and again and again. The behaviour was never the real problem. The shame was. Remove the shame and curiosity appears. Remove the shame and awareness appears. Remove the shame and choice appears. And once choice appears, change becomes possible. Not because you forced yourself, but because you finally started working with yourself instead of against yourself. If you'd like to explore any of this further, just head to loiscorby.com, where you'll see my offerings there. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you listening, and I'll see you next time.